everybody. I'm Kate Laser. I'm the Minister of Street Outreach at First Church in Cambridge and the founder of the Friday Cafe. And we are here today with Tony Maws of the celebrated Craigie on Main restaurant. Tony, it's great to be with you today.
It's great to be here with you today. I'm actually smiling.
You just can't tell.
Exactly.
This is where the magic happens. And today you are going to share a little bit of that magic with us. But I just wanted to remember back a few years ago in 2014 when the Friday Cafe was just getting ready to open for the very first time. When we had coffee, we had day-old donuts, and you reached out to us and you offered to make us a pot of soup for opening day. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think it was my wife Carolyn who first told me what was percolating over there, and I thought first of all something that personally I wanted to be able to do just because. I mean, you know, I'm very fortunate to work with some tremendous organizations in the world of hunger relief. But I also didn't necessarily have my sleeves rolled up to actually cooking for someone. And I just thought, that sounds fantastic. It's my community. It's a church that, you know, your friends who go to First Church, and obviously my wife goes, and it's Cambridge, all the great things. I was like, you know, this is something that would mean a lot to us. When I presented it to our team here at Craigie on Main, everyone just lit up. They're like, absolutely, let's do that. That sounds terrific.
Amazing. I mean, we thought it was just going to be for 1 week, but then it ended up being every Friday, really, right up until the pandemic hit, and then everything kind of had to pivot. And we really missed having that weekly soup connection with you all, so we thought we'd come by and say hi.
That's awesome. We miss it too tremendously.
Yeah.
You know, I think you firsthand have seen how personal people have made the mission of cooking the soup for First Church. Friday Cafe has been because, I mean, you know, you've met all of my, you know, best people who've taken it on themselves to help make that soup. And remember, like, different people that have different names for the soups.
Yeah, that's right. They would come up with funny names for the soups, really, like puns and stuff. Really great.
It's really great.
And we love being woven into the community in this way, and to involve as many people as possible. So that's great for us. And today you're going to share a little bit of what you do with our folks. Now, I know that for myself, often when I think about my own home cooking, I tend to get kind of apologetic about how basic it is, but you always say to me, no, don't think about it that way. So talk to me about cooking and food and how you see food.
I mean, I love eating food. But, you know, we all do, some more than others maybe, but I also just see the act. I mean, look, cooking itself, on one level, we can look at it as the craft, technique, all that stuff, and that's, in my world, that's certainly very important, but when you really just break it down, it's a big act of giving. You know, when I'm cooking a meal for people, it's a way that I can connect with people. It's a way that I can give back to people or share things with people, whether I know them, and it's a kind of a ritual sharing with people that are closest to you at the table, or with people that I don't know, and it brings people together at a table. I mean, think about all the meals, some of the most important meals, some of the loudest meals, some of the, you know, some of the meals that we've had with strangers, but it's the breaking of bread that brought, you know, together to be able to communicate, maybe sometimes even with people that you didn't see eye to eye with previously. So I just think it's a beautiful thing. And
that's so describes what we're trying to do with our programs too, that it's really all about being around a shared table.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we can get caught up in, you know, I don't know, crap with all of this, you know, and celebrity stuff and all that, but one of the reasons why the kitchen here at Craigie on Main is so open is so that we can all share this experience together. And those aren't just words, it's the way we approach it.
That's wonderful. So, what are you going to show us today?
Well, you know, I think in the spirit of the act of giving, one of my favorite things to eat is a roast chicken, and it definitely falls into the category of, oh, just a roast chicken. But it's not just a roast chicken. Chicken itself, I want to talk a little bit about, and here, just showing people some little tips to help make the food that they're preparing. Maybe they're not comfortable, and I just want to show them some things that make them more comfortable, or they have certainly most of their fair share of chickens, but some little things that maybe make it more exciting for them to, you know, try new things. That's part of what I can bring to the table. So I guess pun intended there.
Great, yeah, so, let's get to it.
So the first, I mean, this is a chicken, and everyone, you know, has seen chicken. Sometimes I think we have become so familiar with chicken that we just think of it as this thing that you get at a grocery store and it's wrapped in plastic, and we don't think about the fact that it's actually an animal. It was an animal living and breathing. Because of that, this is true with a lot of food. I get to stand on my soapbox now because you gave it to me and I'm not giving it back for a little while. It's really important to think about where your food is coming from. You know, there are political reasons for that. There are philosophical reasons for that. It's also just like think about the food that you're putting inside of you. And it's amazing to me sometimes I see so many people who are trying to make positive differences in the way they eat, and then they go out and they buy certain proteins with no real understanding of where it's from. And this doesn't have an ingredient list on it, but it is made up of a lot of different things depending on where the chicken has come from, how it was raised, what it was fed, you know, and that's what you're putting inside of you. And I think sometimes we forget that. We might see the label on the chicken and maybe it has some words. What does it mean? Free range, all natural, organic. What does it really mean? Where is it coming from? What did it actually do? So I think these questions are important to ask because again, this is what's keeping you alive. Sometimes I will say that some of the proteins that I advocate for do cost a little bit more money. And I can't sit here and tell people how to spend their money. I don't think that we need to eat as much protein as sometimes we become used to. And I would rather pay to support small farms who are doing things the right way, who are feeding their animals food that you would recognize, right? Because I know that's what's going into me. I know that's what I'm serving to my wife, my son, my friends, my family, you all, even all the food that we would bring to Friday Cafe. Was never anything that we bought that was processed. That was always coming from the heart and soul of Craigie on me. So to me, that's just really, really important. There's lots of great places to buy chickens. It's local farmers markets, local butcher shops, and I really think it's worth it. Plus, a lot of people also think when they hear the word chicken that it's boring. And to that, I would say the same thing I've just been saying, but maybe not from the same political sense. It's because you haven't had a chicken that was actually raised right, fed right. A real chicken tastes incredible. It's got nuance to it, it's got flavor, and it's fun to eat. It's not just this bland thing that's skinless or whatever. So that's part of my little soapbox spiel. We'll start there. And then I'm just going to show you really quickly a technique that I use both here in the restaurant and at home for roasting a chicken. Many of us have sort of grown up, eating the chicken that looks like this. Maybe it's trussed with twine or something like that. And that's a great way to roast a chicken. It's classic. But I prefer to do something called spatchcocking. Okay, so we have our chicken here. And spatchcocking is when you take the backbone, which runs right along here, just out. So this is the breast side, okay? The backbone side. And you can do this a couple different ways. It's really not complicated. You can do it with a knife, which is what I do, or if you have a good pair of kitchen shears or poultry shears, you can just cut it right out. And you're not going to cut down the middle, because then you're just splitting the backbone. You're going to cut on both sides of the backbone and pull it out that way. So I'm going to reach over here, pull out this knife. And the way I do it is I kind of sit it on the wing side here, and I just goes right down the side. I know I make it look easy. I've had lots of practice, but you will too. And just cut straight through. And then I actually save the backbones because when I have more, just a couple of them, 5, 6 of them, I make soup, which is fantastic. The next part that I do is I come in here to the breastplate, and this is where the wishbone is, and I just make a little crack. This allows me to help lay it flatter. I'm going to get to why I like to spatchcock this, a little excess. Okay, I'm going to take the wings here, and what I'm trying to do is now expose as much of the skin, as much of the outer layer of this awesome bird to the heat. When it's round, when it's back in this form, right, you've got lots of areas that are tucked away. And I don't know about you, but I love me some roasted chicken skin. It's awesome. So it's also very good for you. So we want to expose as much as possible, which is going to give us a much higher percentage of skin that's exposed now to get it crispy. So I take the wings and I just fold them back here. And now what I have is this bird that's really exposed. Much more of the skin is exposed. That's going to get way crispier, way more brown. That also means more flavor. The other advantage of cooking a chicken this way is it takes a fraction of the time. This is about a 3.5 pound bird, and because I've now made the surface area that's exposed flatter and wider, it takes less time to cook. So those of us who have really busy schedules, you want to be able to eat like something like this, you can do it, whereas a regular chicken might take 45, 50 minutes or even an hour depending on the size. This is going to take about a half hour in the oven. Really not a big deal. So pretty cool. So that's the idea of it, behind spatchcocking. The next thing that I want to just talk quickly about is salts. I use kosher salt here. I'm a fan of diamond crystal. You can season the way I am here because I've done this a lot. And I can be pretty liberal about it, but trust me, this is important. And one of the small things, if I had time, I'd like to season my meat ahead of time. As much as even a day ahead, but certainly a few hours ahead. This allows the salt to permeate. It's going to give it more flavor on the inside, more evenly, as opposed to just having salt on the outside and no seasoning on the inside. Because of osmosis, we're going to get some salt on the inside. But another thing you can do if you don't really know how much salt to do is get used to using a kitchen scale. This is a really simple way to approach a lot of things, because the scale does not lie. It tells you the weight, not just by looking at it, and you get used to using percentages. It's maybe like a little, level up, but hey, if you want to know that next level stuff, when you weigh your chicken, okay, and you look at it in terms of grams, when we put on some new gloves, a safe bet is to think of chickens as using about 1% of the weight in salt. 1%. So this chicken here that weighs 2,200 grams, how many grams of salt is that going to be? It's 1%. Exactly, 22 grams. So 22 grams of salt on there is a really safe bet. And I guarantee you it's not going to be too salty, and it won't be under seasoned if you stick with 1%. If you decide that you do like it a little bit more seasoned, then you can up that. But it's just a really simple way to do things. Another way to add some little different flavors and stuff like that to your chicken is what you put on the chicken. So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of some things that are pretty accessible with one that we make ourselves. This mix here is an herb mix. It's called Herbs of Provence. Herbs of Provence. It's a very traditional mix. You can buy it pretty much anywhere, any market, any grocery store I've ever seen is some version of Herbs of Provence. And it's basically thyme, rosemary, sage, lavender. And it's very classic on a chicken. So I would add salt, some pepper, and some Herbs of Provence. Fantastic. Mix up some different peppercorns. This is a pepper mix that we make here at Craigie on Maine. So it is black telecherry peppercorns, it's white peppercorns, it's green peppercorns, it's pink peppercorns. Make a fun little mix there. All of those peppercorns have different nuances and different flavors to them. And this is just a spice mix. Play with different spice mixes. This is something that we call red chili. You have this New Mexican red chilies in there. Some Mexican oregano, cumin, coriander, some cinnamon, things that we mix there. But, there's some fantastic local places that have great spices. Christina's in Union Square, Curio on Mass Ave, just outside of Porter Square. Does their own spice mixes, really wonderful stuff. Local companies that you can support. You can also get these different blends at places like Savinor's and Formaggio. So it's worth exploring because then you can create something that's a little bit your own and not just feel like you're eating the same thing all the time. So that is my spatchcock chicken 101. Now I'm going to show you how to break down really quickly a cooked spatchcock chicken. So I'm going to get this out of the way. Probably, I'm assuming you'll cut this.
Yeah.
Is this okay?
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I'm learning.
I'm learning a ton.
Not my first rodeo,
I know.
Apparently.
but this is a good one. I thought this would work.
When I make stock, first I roast the bones.
You like roasted stock? Cool.
And then, I found out you get much more flavor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do it in the Instant Pot. Oh, I have a terrible confession, but I do. Wow. 1%. We did.
That's my board.
1%.
one thing. All right, back.
So let me get your full head in there. Looks good.
All right, we are back. So this is a roasted spatchcock chicken. You can see just how evenly it browned. Really, really fantastic. Very easy to do. So we're gonna take it off this roasting rack. And if I was home, I might put some vegetables or something like that underneath the rack too, so it would be cooking in all of the delicious chicken fat. How did I know when this chicken was done? Because that's certainly a question. I don't ever believe a thermometer that pops out. It's way off. They're always going to be way too hot. I go with digital thermometers. Way more accurate. They never lie too, especially if you know where to go. So I'm going to turn this one on. And the thing that also is important to understand about a chicken or any bird, turkey, or if you cook ducks or pheasants or anything, is that the legs, the dark meat, actually is done at a different temperature than the white meat. So one of the ways that makes it complicated when you're roasting the chicken as a whole chicken is because it cooks a little unevenly. You might actually even dry out the breast before the legs are done. Whereas this being so much more even, I can also point the legs closer to the heat source in your oven so that they're getting more of the heat and it cooks a lot more evenly that way. So the breast temperature for me is usually around 148, 150 is what I'd be looking for. And I would, because of the breastbone that's on there, I would stick this in as close to the center as possible. Not along the bone because that's too far on one side and not too much on the top. That's too far in, so you want to get in the center. And if you wanted to check the thigh, same thing. You want to avoid the bone. If you're touching the bone gets hotter than the rest of the meat does. So you want to just temp that, and that's where I would go to there. But this never lies, and that's going to tell you when it's done. The other important thing when you pull this out of the oven is what we call your let it rest. The amount of heat is giving this beautiful bird a lot of stress, okay? Literally, and it almost tenses it up while it's cooking. So you need to let it rest and relax. It also, it's just going to be more tender when you eat it that way, and it's going to be more juicy because if you cut into it as soon as it comes out of the oven, that tense muscle is actually going to squeeze out a lot of that juice. So that's one of the reasons. So golden rule is about 10 minutes after you cook your chicken. And what I do is it's really simple. It's almost already broken down for me. Very little struggling. I'm just going to sort of separate this seam right here, the leg and the breast. I'm just going to, as long as this comes right apart. And then with a decent knife, I'll probably just go right through the breastbone. And I can either serve that, or if I want to share it, get a couple of pieces there, the wing attached, so I can take the wing off too with the joint. Have some pieces there. And then some people get hung up about where to cut this. I look at it as a V, leg, thigh, and if I go straight through the V, it goes right through the joint. So you don't have to struggle of where to go. Same thing on this one, straight through, hardly had to put pressure on it. And now I've got a beautifully broken down roasted spatchcock chicken. Ta-da!
Wow, I learned so much from that. I can't wait to try everything that you just told us about at home. I'm really excited. Now, I know, this has been such a hard year for restaurants, especially during the pandemic, like the year of 1,000 pivots, right?
Yep.
Plan A, and then Plan B, and then Plan C, and it just kept going and kept going.
Yeah, we like to think of it a little bit more of ballroom dancing. We're just spinning and spinning.
Spinning and spinning. So what is the setup right here now in Craigie? You guys are still open.
We are open. We are doing takeout only. We have decided for myriad reasons, it's just not in our interest right now to bring people into this restaurant. I also don't think a whole lot of people in the Cambridge area want to be coming into restaurants right now. So we've got a very small but loyal and hardworking staff that is doing everything we can to make sure that we're still providing food for the community. And that's what we've done. So, we definitely had to think a lot about what food works. That still sort of is true to Craigie and what people have come to think about Craigie on Main. But it has to go into one of these to-go boxes, and it has to make it home and in someone's car, and maybe you drop along the way. Who knows? It's like all the things that are out of my control. So it's really made us think a lot about food. In a weird way, it's if I can put all of this madness aside, and think of this being in the vacuum, it's some of the most creative cooking I've had to do, maybe ever, certainly in a really long time. Really strip things down to what's important about food, what's important about technique, so that I can cook something that, again, go through all the possible steps that the bag that we put the food in might have to go through just to get home. It still has to taste good. It still has to make you happy. It still has to put a smile on your face. And sometimes that's to be reheated, or who knows. So, they might not think, our guests might not think of it as, well, it would have been good a half hour ago. They're opening a box that has our name on it, and they want to know it's good now. So we really had to think long and hard about, well, what does that mean, and how do we pull that off?
Right.
Sometimes, and I say sometimes, it's actually almost been fun. Now, I can't wait to get back to cooking for real people. Absolutely.
In the
And
restaurant.
hopefully, hopefully that happens soon.
But for now, people can find you at CraigieOnMain.com. Is that right?
CraigieOnMain.com. We are open Wednesday through Sunday. We always have specials on the weekend, Friday and Saturday. We always do our chef's whim, which is a reduced price multi-dish menu that I choose what goes in your bag. But I promise you, we've
So
never let
fun.
anybody down.
So fun.
Yeah.
Well, we have loved this time with you, and we cherish our relationship with you guys. We are so grateful. We still feel very connected, even though right now we're not doing hot food at the Friday Cafe, but we really look forward to continuing this relationship, and we thank you so much for your time today.
It'll mean a lot when we can start cooking those big pots of soup again. And in the meantime, it means a lot that you guys are doing everything that you're doing right now to keep the ball rolling with the Friday Cafe. It's really an inspiration. So,
Thanks.
congrats.